Welcome, everybody, to Defending Our Children. Today, we have a guest with us, Leah Cartwright. She is, as we like to say, she's a mama bear. And she is a wonderful lady that we met who has a story to tell, working on Friday nights with prostitutes that are on the street, trying to help them. And she put together a documentary called Cages, which was produced by Hermes from Screw Big Gov. Leah, thank you for joining us. Tell us what else you'd like the people to know about you.
Just that I am a mama bear, and I had a story when I was young. I shared with you that I had been molested by a neighbor, and thankfully, my mother listened to me, and my parents took action. So the abuse was very, very minimal. But we were able to get him convicted and put in prison for 18 months. So that's just started my story when I was 7 years old. I was very aware then, and throughout my life had run into many, many girls that were my friends that had gone through much more severe abuse. And being a mother and grandmother now, I just feel like I want to fight against this. My mother fought for me back in 1979, and it was a major problem then. Not even realizing there were 42 children in my neighborhood specifically that had been touched, molested, and sodomized by this man. Unfortunately, many of the parents didn't stand up and fight for their children, but my mom and another family did. So, fast forward to now, I started, a friend just asked me to go and help feed the homeless. And I thought that would be something I wanted to do. And ended up being a prostitution ministry that was attached to that group. And so I wanted to go with these people. I wanted to learn and I wanted to help. And so every Friday night we would go to the streets and meet anybody. And there were young boys as well that were also prostituting themselves. So we just helped everybody that we could. And we had a bus that we would take them, the girls off of the streets and try to get them out and away from their pimps. Um, Lots of dangerous stuff happens. One time our bus got shot up by one of the pimps when we took the girl. Another time we were able to rescue two girls that were going to be murdered one evening because they had a $1,500 bounty for the drug cartel. So we were able to get those two girls to safety and in an ambulance. And this is just literally just moms and some people from a church. So, um,
Well,
you
folks,
know,
that's an incredible story. And Craig and I, first of all, we refer to mama bears all the time, and we meet men that we encourage them to stand up and protect their families. Many times they do, but there are some that we are just wondering why is it they don't. But very rarely do you meet a mother who doesn't circle the wagons to protect their kids. And you had said something earlier about your experience of 42 kids being violated. And Craig and I, we talk about this, and he shared with us when he first started this mission that the average predator has 70 victims, not 70, sessions or
account.
events,
Yeah,
70. And so what you're saying, wow, I mean, and it was happening in your own backyard, your own neighborhood. And most people, they don't want to believe it's happening in their neighborhood. It's happening in their church. It's happening in their school, in the areas which you think is the safest place for you to be. But if you look around and if you look properly, you'll see something. Is it that what you've learned?
absolutely. It's uncles, it's cousins, it's neighbors, teachers. This was a teacher. He had been relieved of his job previous. He was in Prescott and had been relieved of his job in Prescott as a teacher and moved to Camp Verde. So at that time in 1979, my dad was a Yavapai sheriff and my mom worked at the high school. And so this man he did not care whose kid he was touching. So um,
Why
My
is
dad
it
had,
that your mom? Okay, I've never met your mom. I'm fascinated by her because a lot of moms, especially in those times, in that time, they would not have been so aggressively. They playing offense, as I'd like to say, going after this person, protecting you, getting your father involved. I'm sure that was kind of a delicate situation, being that he was he was a peace officer, but you know, it had to be tough. But why do you think your mom just drew a line in the sand and said, "Hey, this ain't going to happen on my watch"?
well, she listened, and I think a lot of times we've talked about that. Parents don't really listen to what their kids are saying. I think things that are as delicate as child molestation, it would be hard for a child to make up that story without any previous knowledge of what that means. My mother, I just said, I don't like the way he touched me. And, of course, she said, who and how and what did he do? Show me specifically. And she trusted that I didn't just make that up. I wasn't lying. I was a 7-year-old little kid. I had no knowledge of what that would look like. I couldn't have made that story up. And it was the typical movie set. It was the cookies, Kool-Aid, sitting on the front porch, a bunch of other kids playing in front of me. And he just did it plain as day. And I actually still have the court records from 1979, and I've read his testimony and the other children's testimony. And he was very bold. He just did it in front of all the other children. It was very normal. His behavior, he would touch one kid in front of another kid, and he said he was loving us because nobody loved us the way he could. And he believed that he was doing that. And yeah, it was very interesting.
When he was prosecuted, did were you the only family that was prosecuting him, or did others come?
Only two sisters.
Wow.
That was it. Out of all, my mother was told, my dad's gun and badge were taken away, and he was told to go home, and that my family was not to be within however many feet of him ever. And she didn't listen, and she went door to door anyway, and found there were 42 children in total that had been touched, and the parents confessed that they knew about it. And then only one family went to court with us. And our pastor at the time, my mother went to the pastor and said, "Can you please stand with this single mother?" And his answer was, "We don't do church and state. We don't mix the two." And so the pastor even stood down. Um, so,
I certainly don't view that as church and state. I view that as supporting and protecting one of those that are attending your church. So
yeah,
I find to be abhorrent myself. So
yeah,
Craig
I
and I, we
agree.
grew.
It's a cop out.
yeah,
That's weak. That is absolutely weak excuse
yeah.
not to
Well,
defend
her
a
son
child.
had been sodomized by him, and the boy confessed, and his statement is in there, and his mom did not pursue it. She just told him to stay away from him in the future. That was the mom's reaction as well. So,
It's just such a stark contrast to witness the difference between a strong mama bear and a,
yeah,
a parent who takes the easy
yeah.
route and won't stand up for their kid. It's just
And
staggering
mine was
the contrast.
mine was the most minimal. I was the last one touched. We had just moved here, so I didn't have the abuse that boy did. But my mother still, you know, absolutely wasn't going to take just, oh, it's a, off chance that he touched her a little weird. No. So
Well, that is certainly an interesting take on it. Leah, we are going to have to stop for commercial break, but
yeah.
we will be back with Leah Cartwright on defending our children.
Hey, Tim James here, founder of ChemicalFreeBody.com, also the health coach for Craig Sawyer and Forrest Seeley. And I want to help working class people get their energy back and quit having all these health issues. Here's the problems. The average person is carrying around 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material in your colon. This is not good. Number two, we have terrible nutrition because the nutrition has been farmed out of our soils and processed out. Plus, processed foods are killing 4,300 people a day. We need good nutrition. Number three, our gut microbiome's all jacked up from all these toxins and pesticides and stress. We have to balance that. We also have tremendous amounts of inflammation in the body, and we have an overload of toxins from heavy metals, radiation, and pollution. Craig and I and Forrest got together. We created what we call our Defending Our Health bundle. This is a bundle of our products over here at chemicalfreebody.com that will revolutionize your health. We've put them together. Green 85 is going to come in and supply you with all the nutrition you need. Our gut detox will take care of all that impacted garbage inside of you and keep it out. Toxin detox will get the heavy metals, the radiation, and the pollution out. The nano silver, the triple action, will start balancing the gut microbiome, and the turmeric 100 will start reducing inflammation in the body. You put it all together, and working class people can now get their energy back and their health back and start to heal themselves. We need you to be healthy so that you can fight for freedom and fight for these kids. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/DOC and check out the Defending Our Health bundle and all of the other wonderful products that we offer, and we look forward to helping you have the best life ever.
Welcome back, everyone, to Defending Our Children. I want to encourage everyone to buy our rescue roast on our website, v4cr.org. Why? Because it's epic coffee. It's fantastic. We have light, medium, dark roast. I pray over every batch out loud because I believe it's a good thing to do. And it, quantum physics wise, it makes sense to wish well over your food items. Spiritually, it makes even more sense. And it's great coffee. And every bit of this goes to fund our operations to arrest child predators and stop the harm to children to end the child rape epidemic in our country. So thank you for buying our rescue roast coffee.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Craig. We are here with Leah Cartwright, and she is a mama bear that I was introduced to. And we were just talking about her story, and she was a survivor of SA, which is sexual abuse, and she was young. And we were absolutely amazed to hear that her mother drew a line in the sand and said, I am not going to tolerate this. And she rallied the troops. She ascertained that there were 42 victims, survivors in their neighborhood, in their immediate area. And they prosecuted this man that was harming the children. And so here at Veterans for Child Rescue and Defending Our Children, we love to hear these stories because we know that you have to defend our kids. We have to protect them. We have to train them. And anybody that wants to harm them as a society, we've got to circle the wagons and fight back. And so Leah is a great example of this, and we will certainly herald her story as much as we can to encourage those others that are afraid to fight, to stand up and do so. And it's a tough, we know it's a tough battle. And however, if we do it together, it makes it a lot easier for people to do what's right. So Leah, let's talk a little bit more about your journey.
Okay. So when I moved, I had moved away from Arizona for a little while. When I came back about 15 years ago, I was introduced to a lady that ran a satanically, ritually abused girls' home very close to my house. So we did a lot of fundraising, and I learned, this has just been a learning journey for me. While my situation was many, many years ago and not extreme like so many, it just gave me a passion for it. I am a baker, and so part of my contribution to this household was I get to bake cakes for the children when it's their birthday, and I'm able to partner with her as we do fundraisers. I can partner with them outside of the fundraisers by always offering my gifts and talents. And I think that is also a really important part of this. I was able to just get involved, and you don't have to do a lot. I always tell people, just get involved. Start going to things where people are talking about this and how you can help and come alongside them. So learning about the satanically abused children, it just got more and more intense of what happens to these kids. Then I started going to the sex trafficking walks where people are trying to raise money and just doing networking. Anybody can get involved in this. I did join a church group as well, after serving, with this group of little girls. They only can handle 6. So then when I started going to the streets with the church, we did the research, and found the places to put people. One of the ladies that took me to the streets and taught me everything, she was a survivor out of the streets. She had had her daughter kidnapped through Child Protective Services. So I learned, as we were feeding the homeless and working with the prostitution ministry, the exposure of then what was happening to the children through CPS. And her story was a typical story of, then they become the prey when they're out on the streets and they don't have the resources and they've made poor choices in life. Their children then become, a product of the system. Unfortunately, she found over the years how difficult it was to ever earn her child back. The reunification protocol for CPS is so extensive that even if they can become clean, get a job, put a roof over their head, purchase a car, there's other mandates that are put on them that do not allow them to be reunified with their family. So that was also part of my education, going to events, meeting these mothers, begging for the help of how to get their child back once CPS has intervened and taken them. And even though they've done the work, it's so difficult to get their children back. So,
Leah, one of the things that I was surprised to learn about Child Protective Services is that there is a cash incentive for them taking the child from the biological parent or parents. And at the time, there was no such incentive for reunifying a child with their biological parents. Has that changed to your knowledge, or does it
no.
remain that way?
I believe it remains the same. There's a Title 4E and a Title 4D through Social Security as well, and they have matching funds. And there's a whistleblower that has come out and explained how for every transaction of the child being taken or moved or replaced, they match the funds through their Social Security program as well. Yeah, there's also more information that has come out that I have not proved. It's just, again, information people are starting to talk about is the people that have been trafficked here, the adults that say from Cambodia, Venezuela, wherever, they are now making them the head of foster care homes. If that is true, and I personally can see that happening based on what I've learned. So now they're creating a safe place for the people that they're trafficking over here, and they're giving them to be the head of the house of a foster care home.
Craig, don't you find it interesting? She said something that I don't think our listeners may understand, but the Social Security fund is a slush fund for other things that I would imagine would be hard to get approval for. Okay, it's being used for things that it wasn't meant to be used for. And when you want operating funds to do something that you don't want the public to be aware of, you don't go ask for money to do that. You just take it from another fund through, lawfare of some sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really bothers me, that money's for Social Security. Why don't they go to Congress and say, here's what we want to do. Can you provide us with funding for that?
Yeah, that's why I think the Doge program is already identifying trillions in
Yes.
theft and misuse and abuse. It's staggering what all has been done, how much deceit and theft. We've all suffered. And so I celebrate it coming out, but we've got a lot to correct. And I celebrate the fact that a lot of this is being cut off and rectified. But man, yeah, I could see where they would do that. Don't announce it publicly. Just take funds that are intended for one thing, divert it over to another. We see that a lot in government, covert operations and everything else. So
Yeah.
it's something that we, the people, need to know about so that we can put safeguards in place to prevent this type of abuse.
Indeed. And Leah, what we've seen is when you look at how CPS operates, when you speak to somebody that's been working there, the average, Craig, if I remember, it was the average caseworker, it's 4 months. They last about 4 months. Their caseload is somewhere between 120 and 150 cases. We spoke to somebody recently that I want to say it was about 10 years ago or more. She quit because they told her if she didn't follow certain protocols that she would be arrested, that she would be held liable. And these were protocols that she didn't have the bandwidth to perform. So I just find that there's a lot to unpack as it pertains to CPS. Folks, we are out of time for this break. We will be back with Leah Cartwright on Defending Our Children. Welcome back to Defending Our Children. We have guest Leah Cartwright, and I would like to just name her as a mama bear. And she was talking earlier about her ministry there in Phoenix, and she is walking the streets, helping people out in need that have been trafficked. What's interesting is last night I got home and sat on my recliner with my iPad and was doing some work, and my wife and my mother-in-law were watching a brand new TV show, first season, and I wasn't paying any attention, but there was a scene where they went to visit somebody and they were getting a blessing, and this was a spiritual blessing, and it wasn't the kind of blessing you would go to the church to get. It was a blessing of protection of the dark arts. And one thing that Craig and I talk about all the time and that we've witnessed is that whenever Hollywood talks about something, oftentimes we think that it's not real, but in reality, they're emulating or they're mirroring what's happening in reality. So you had mentioned on our last segment, satanic ritual abuse. And this is a, as Craig likes to say, too hard to, what was that, Craig?
It goes in the too hard box.
Too hard box. Okay. And so, when people don't understand something, they don't want to talk about it or they don't want to think about it because it's painful to think about. But we, and Leah, we'd like you to maybe share some of the things that you've seen. Is we've seen a lot of too hard box stuff. And so if you want to talk about what you've witnessed in your ministry.
Yeah. I have added to the ministry going to the abortion clinics as well. I think people don't understand the connection with adrenochrome, which is the big buzzword for the satanic ritual abused. It's the ultimate goal is to drink the blood of adrenalized children. The more pure the child is, the closer to God that child is. I believe that is their ultimate sacrifice. Anything that would hurt God's heart, for sure, especially with the children. There's also the darker the skin, the stronger the melanin is produced. And my personal belief that just by observing and watching, I believe that they target all kinds of lower income families, and they put abortion clinics in, low income areas, and they target people. They get the men out of the homes, anything that they can do to get a man arrested, in jail, and for as little as marijuana. I have my personal opinions of that, but being the least of the drug charges that there are, they come with very high consequences, and it does remove the men from the home. And I'm not saying what their criminal behavior is good, but that is a start. And then you leave the women with the children at home, and then abortion becomes a top thing that they do, because they can't afford it. They don't have the resources, and it's just a cyclical thing. And the children are then aborted, and their bodies are sold, their parts are sold. And I think a lot of the women don't understand that that is a part of the satanic ritual abuse of sacrificing children. They, under the guise of it's a medical, procedure, and they've obviously campaigned that it does no harm, that it's just a clump of cells. And unfortunately, a lot of times this is also happening in hospitals. I believe that I've read documents that every child is documented, and there is the ability for them to be sold through the medical system. They do have people that are involved in taking children out of the hospitals, any kind of medical kidnapping that can be done through the hospitals and doctors. These children are sold on the black market, essentially. And they do it through means of, you're not properly caring for your children medically. We have a case right now. There's a family that had 5 children taken from Arizona into Clark County through a CPS. They deemed they were poor. There's no crime in being poor, but they target poor families, homestead type families, home birth, women that want to breastfeed. They don't want to vaccinate their children. They are all targeted, and their children are taken medically. And if the parents can't do the work that they require to get them back, they're actually fast track adopting them out now into families. And again, this new information of people that are running these homes now are illegals that they're hiding, and they're being abused and trafficked through foster care homes. So it is a wide web of people involved, and they hide, behind the good people that are trying to do the good work. And anyway.
Well, it strikes me as so many validations of the term war on children. If you want the children harmed, take away their protection.
Yeah.
Starting with the home. Take the father out of the home, which is the biggest, most intimidating defender, supposedly, as a good masculine man of God. A godly masculine man should be the most fierce defender of his children. And then a mama bear to max her out, to pay her to have numerous children, and to pay her to do it without the father in the home. That way, those children are vulnerable. And you could see where it all is such a bad dynamic. The way it has been orchestrated is terrible for the children. And once you kind of crack the code and you look at it through that lens, it all makes sense. You're like, of course they've set this all up. It's easy to spot. But until then, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, it's just a bunch of mindless incompetence and government bureaucracy. No, it's all orchestrated very, very specifically, all the way back to Margaret Sanger and the eugenics, the Nazi, really white supremacist, in its truest sense, Luciferian, is a satanic agenda, and they set up shop in minority neighborhoods to eradicate their offspring and to sell their organs. And it's, that can sound hyperbolic until you start doing the research and go, yeah, that's absolutely how it is.
But
it's
they
deeply
also
upsetting.
they also then use in the CP or in the divorce courts as well. They will give the child to the abusive parent because they know definitively the non-abusive parent will always pay child support. They will always fight for their kids. They will always be in there hiring attorneys. So that is another source of just turning the money, because why would you give the kid to the good parent who's going to take care of them? There's no money coming in that way. The kid is safe and out of harm's way. They seem to kind of always give it back to the parent that does not give the stability home life. because the money keeps flowing through the attorneys, through the judges, through the court systems, the fines, the fees, and all of that. It's just a money-making machine, and that's
Wow,
provable.
Leah, that's one aspect I had not yet heard or
Yeah,
nor considered. I appreciate you
yeah.
sharing that.
It's
And I've
massive
noticed that
what
that
they
is
do.
true,
Yes,
that
yes.
so many the children go to the obviously abusive parent. And I'm like,
Mhm.
why? What
Yeah,
justification could a judge have? And you've
yeah.
just laid it out. It's about
Money.
funding the court system.
Yeah, 100%. It's a money-making machine that does not end.
That sickens me. It
And you'll
really
sell your
does.
house. You'll sell everything you have to save your children,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they take advantage, fully take advantage of the parent that works and provides, because it's never going to go away. The money will always flow.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Wow. That is something that's enlightening, Craig. I can't believe it, but it makes sense that somebody looked at the system and they said, hey, here's another layer we can make money off.
Yeah.
So we've got to stop for commercial break. We will be back on Defending Our Children.
Hey, Tim James here. You know, when I was 37 years old, I had some severe gastrointestinal issues. I was tired, fatigued, wasn't feeling good, skin issues. My health was a mess. Let's just put it that way. Now I'm turning 52 this year, and I have abundant energy. I'm able to trail run and kick the butts of my 22 and 24-year-old sons. Yep, that's right. And do push-ups and all this other fun stuff. How did I do it? Well, one key ingredient, if you want to get healthy, if you want to get your energy back, you want to get your vitality back, is real nutrition. Our soils have been so over-farmed, 85% of the nutrition is gone today, and then the rest is processed out through these processing plants. So what we have created is a formula called Green 85 juice formula. You can take 1 scoop in the morning, and we suggest you do another one in the afternoon about a half an hour before dinner, and you will revitalize your health. You will get your health back. You will cut your hunger cravings, and you're going to actually cut your grocery bill in half. This product will literally pay for itself because you cannot eat as much food because your cells are now getting the nutrition they need. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/DOC. That's chemicalfreebody.com/DOC. Get Green 85 today and energize your life and your health so that you can feel as good as I do and Craig does and Forrest. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
Welcome back to Defending Our Children. And we have Leah Cartwright with us. And we were just discussing life on the street, some things that were happening that she, in her ministry, she chose to go and start helping people on the street. And there were a lot of dark things that we talked about in between the break. And so we're going to dive into some things that she mentioned. So Leah, I'm gonna leave it to you. I'm gonna let you kind of open up this chapter.
Okay, this is as dark at this moment that I found of information. There, I read an entire article from a self-professed plastic surgeon that is hired by people that can afford to create what is called a sex doll for um, also procreating and creating more children to satanic ritually abuse. So this particular doctor documented how he has children that are stolen under the age typically of 12, so between say 8 and 9 years old. It is mostly girls. I've not heard of a boy sex doll, but I'm not saying they don't have them. I've just read this particular document. They cut the arms and legs off to the joint so that the child can't run away. He um, does whatever he does to take out their tongues so that they can only drink out of a baby bottle. He makes them deaf and blind, and he puts hooks at all 4 of their joints through their bones and lets the hooks like heal. And it takes about 6 to 8 months to create this doll that hangs. They then hang the child from hooks in the house so that the person that they sell it to can just always have them available to rape and sodomize, and then they also get them pregnant so that they can produce another child out of this
Okay.
once they're of
Wow.
age. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously, that's not healthy or normal human behavior. That's abnormal. And I would say it's not natural, it's supernatural. And folks, if you don't believe in evil, if you don't
Yeah.
believe in the fallen ones motivating man to do unspeakable evil, well, I would just submit that example to you um, to consider. Like, who would ever do that? Um,
There's a long list of people, there's a long list of people buying these
yeah.
children, which is even sicker. That he even has a business that this is, and
Yep.
they're between 60 and $80,000 a child for this very specific, mm, you know, sickness that these people have.
Yeah.
Then you've got the snuff films. Those are very, very real. These children are, even Dr. Phil did a documentary on the girls and boys in Aruba, where they rape them and satanically ritually abuse them until they're no longer needed. And then the last way that they kill the children is they put a um, stake through their head and they tack them down to a wooden floor, like a railroad stake. And as the child flails in their last hours and their last minutes of breath, they videotape somebody raping them as they're tacked to the ground. Um,
Yeah. Well,
so,
I just see that as a vile and demonic occurrence. And again, that's not a natural thing that would ever happen in normal human behavior. So I'm all about freedom of religion. But when your religion is to do that, and that's what you're doing in secret, I'm not okay with freedom of that because that's harming other people. And especially when it comes to children, they have to be afforded every defense. And I'm all for turning against and making war on whatever that is. That satanic ritual abuse, that sick,
yeah.
horrific, unspeakable atrocity on children has to be gone against by our law enforcement. We have to have laws that turn against whatever that is. And it won't do for me. It doesn't wash with me to go, oh, well, freedom of religion. No, not that. Okay. If you want to build an idol and stand in front of it and worship however you want, um, however misguided, I suppose you should be allowed to do that. But when you're going to harm others, that's where it draws the line. And if you're going to harm children, I'm sorry, we should all be standing in front of the children saying, leave them alone, leave them alone. And if we don't have the new FBI purged of the corruption going after this filth, then what are we using it for? What are we using the FBI for if not to make war on this evil that is a scourge on our culture and on our nation? What nation does not suffer the wrath of the Almighty while conducting this on his most precious and innocent children? Like my wife said, what would any father do? Think about it. So I that's it stings a lot to hear that. It's like a kick to the gut, but we need to realize what we're allowing under the banner of certain freedoms. I'm a big freedom guy. Do whatever you want until or unless you're hurting others with your freedom. And if you're hurting children, boom, all bets are off. You need to be brought to full review and account. That's my personal opinion.
Well, right now, our biggest goal is to start working with all the sheriffs. Now that I believe some of the executive orders are in place that are going to support the sheriffs, we, the people, do have to hold them accountable, though. I mean, this is a job for us. We have been given now the ability to, and I personally have had 3 meetings with our current um, new sheriff, Jerry Sheridan, and I have requested his help. I do have a security team of people that have gone to events with me. I've been a guest speaker at events, and they want to be a part of this, and they want to help families be able to reunite their children. So our mission right now is everybody needs to stand up and ask our sheriffs, what are you doing to help we the people so that we can stop this at our local level? We don't want to interfere with their work, but we also don't want to stand down. And so we are having a mission that is starting to take is people are starting to take action to discuss this with the sheriffs, because they have more power than the governors. So we, the people, need to hold our sheriffs accountable to do their constitutional job. And if not, they need to go. For sure.
100%. And George Soros has been working on corrupting sheriffs the same way that he has been district attorneys, because they are such a key stepping stone in our justice and law enforcement system. We have to identify the sheriffs who have been corrupted by George Soros and other radical anti-American institutions or entities, and replace them with people who will do the job in good faith again. Because as it is right now, so many of them are betraying us by betraying their oath of office and their duty. So it is something that has happened, and we have much cleanup to do.
Absolutely.
Well, Craig, additionally, to kind of support what we're talking about, we went down to South Texas because we were looking into the Office of Refugee Relocation or Resettlement, and they misplaced 320,000 kids. And so recently, after the last election, the Homeland Security person, Tom Homan, was talking about these missing kids, and he named 3 things on his agenda, and the third one is to find the missing children. And so, where are these kids? What are they doing with them? And I think that we're touching on some of what's happening to these kids.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, we've got to stop for commercial break, but we will be back with Leah Cartwright on defending our children.
Here to review this V4CR coffee, Veterans for Child Rescue. Getting rid of child trafficking all around the world.
Rescue Roast. This is being offered strictly to fund our operations. We found a great roaster, chosen our 3 favorite flavors, and our light, medium, and dark roast, we're offering it right now in pre-ground form. If you want to enjoy it in K-cups, we have stainless steel cups on our website, and they are reusable. Just take the coffee and pour it into the cup. Close it up, put it in the machine. Oh yeah. So go to our website right now, v4cr.org. Order as much as you want on our shop page. We're grateful for your continued support. We're excited about what this means as far as boosting the funding for our operations. Thank you so much for your continued support. God bless.
Welcome back to Defending Our Children. And hey, I just want to do a shout out to chemicalfreebody.com. They have a product called Green 85, and this is a product that we use. It is 85 essential vitamins and minerals. They have a whole bunch of other products that help. They're all natural. Our brother Tim James, he is a life coach that works on us, and we thank him for his support. You can go to chemicalfreebody.com/DOC, use the code DOC for a 5% discount, I believe. And check it out. I think you'll be satisfied with those products. So we're coming back with Leah Cartwright, and she is a mama bear, and she's been working the street. She actually started her own ministry. She dove in head first because she decided, I'm not going to try to figure out who I want to work with. I think I'm just going to dive into the deep end and figure out who the guppies are and who the sharks are, and then I'll go from there. And we love people like that. We raise them up, lift them up, because many people are afraid to do this sort of thing, and Leah certainly is not. So we want to follow in her footsteps. And so, Leah, we were talking in the break, you were talking about some cases you're working on. What would you like to share with our audience on that?
Yeah. So right here I'm in Maricopa County. I've been working with a family, a mom of 4 boys that were given to their biological father, who it has been proven that they have been being beat with the ends of belts, threatened, testicles twisted, just abuse constantly. The schools know about it. The kids have been reported, as having bruises. Mom has been fighting in court for a very long time. with all the evidence against the judges, and they keep giving the children back to the abusive parent, and she continues to fight in court, and they delay things so that she can't get them back. This is where we have a team of security that are willing to use the power of the sheriff's office with the evidence to go in and take these children back. So this is a part of what we're learning. How do we, the people, start getting involved in, first of all, exposing these atrocities, and then second of all, what are we doing as citizens to come alongside families that have had their power taken away from them? We need to come alongside them. There's another case of a mother whose daughter was being groomed at the age of 16. Just getting her to be pulled away from her family, just the typical alienation from the family. Then she ran away and turned 18 years old. The mother has since seen her daughter, but because she's 18, she's struggling with, I don't know if she's in a compound somewhere. She's moved to an area where there's multiple people keeping her there. They have since done surgery on her. I believe they've done breast removal. They have put her on medications. They've been trying to transgender her. And the mom knows that the daughter is very upset about it, but she's being, threatened, and she can't get her daughter back because now she's 18 years old. So these are cases that are, they're crossing lines, because being an underage person, you have certain, things you can do. You can call the police and they can go and they can take the child. Once they've turned 18, now the police hands are tied if she says no. So these are people that are coming to us looking for help somehow, some way. And again, there's financial constraints. Trying to think of there's another case that was on the show Cages. David Sagai, he was a professional baseball player. His children were trafficked through from Arizona to California. They were run through a program called the Randy Rand program, which is supposedly a reunification program. That it took him years and thousands of dollars. His life was also, somebody had tried to kill him twice as he was fighting the system. Again, he had money, so the children kept going back to the other parent. You can go listen to his story on that documentary. They now have a $35,000 lawsuit against the state of Arizona. These atrocities are happening everywhere, and you do have to hit them in the pocketbook, which there are attorneys that are doing these cases pro bono sometimes. My role has been to come alongside these parents to the best of my ability and just be a support for them, guide them. We do have a group they are called affidavit mamas, and they help everybody nationwide write affidavits against judges and CPS workers, as well as attorneys that are not fighting for them. Everybody can get involved somehow, some way with these cases. Just trying to.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a lot to digest. And we hear a lot of similar stories. We've recently had a guest on that told her story. And what you find is that the system, the way it's built, is it's never for the survivor. There are no really true protections and support for the survivors. And we find that to be a travesty when you have a system that tries to protect the offender. They go out of their way to protect the offender. And I believe in justice. I think we should have our day in court, and I think we should have a system that is fair. But it's not fair when the survivors and the victims are being stomped all over. In those cases that they do try to get justice. And that's why a lot of people try to avoid it, because it's such a painful journey to go through. Well,
typically when you call CPS, they it's kind of like turn it around on you, the parent. And those cases have come out too. A gentleman that I met, his name is Ed. His son was being raped by the stepfather, and he reached out to the system for the help, and they turned everything around on him. They said, well, maybe you're doing it. And they put him through hell and then allowed the child to continue to be abused while they were vetting the father. And he's like, if I'm doing it, I'm not calling you. Like, I'm calling you for help.
Hello. Right.
I'm not going to throw myself under the bus. And, his story was, I mean, gut wrenching. You can't even imagine. And truth be told, his story is so powerful that his attorney gave him all of his rights. And he had a weapon against the sheriffs and the CPS officers when they came to his house saying, we're going to take your children from you. He had a locked and loaded weapon, and he said, I have constitutional rights and I will kill all of you. You are not coming and taking my children. You have threatened, kidnapping and rape. The CPS officer, the CPS worker had threatened to take his other child, not the one boy that had been being raped, but now his daughter. And he had his rights, and they had to walk away. Thankfully, they didn't get an ego and, pull a weapon on him. That ended, it ended up working out for the best. But the point was, he had to threaten to kill them just to protect his own family.
Wow.
Wow.
How upsetting to try to navigate that just to protect your children. And the system, how skewed and distorted it is, would be it's traumatizing, because you need to be able to trust the system and to see that it's corrupt, and that it's so dumb, really, that it's backwards. It would be deeply upsetting.
Well, and it's so blatant. It is so in your face. There's no denying it. Case after case after case. There's 1,000 families right now in Clark County that mimic this family with these 5 children, that their families are all saying their kids were taken, minimal reunification options, and then fast tracking adopting them out should the parents not be able to do it in less than the time they're supposed to have. 18 months. They're now doing it between 3 and 6 months, and not giving the families time to meet the requirements to get their children back.
All right, folks, we have got to stop for a commercial break. We got one more segment left with Leah Cartwright. We will be back on Defending Our Children.
Every day in America, children are trafficked for sex. In schools, shopping malls, truck stops, clubs, and bars. Think it can't happen in your neighborhood? Think again. If you suspect a child is being trafficked for sex, call the National Human Trafficking Resource Center 24-hour hotline at 1-888-373-888.
Welcome back to Defending Our Children. And this is our last segment with Mama Bear extraordinaire, Leah Cartwright. She is somebody that we strive to be like. She's just a regular person, and she made the decision to just jump in the deep end with the sharks and the guppies and figure out what's going on bad in the world. And she observed. She basically looked around and said, hey, I'm going to help the kids. I'm going to help the children. I'm going to help the prostitutes that don't really want to be out there working for pimps. And so upon that, she has seen some evil that is indescribable, which we talked about earlier. But Leah, if you were going to sit in front of a bunch of people and talk about how to get involved and how easy it is, it's not hard, but what advice would you give them in doing so?
Yeah, thank you. I was brought into it. Somebody asked me to go and help feed the homeless, and just starting with a servant heart of, serving those less fortunate. And actually, like you said, observing. I listened and I learned and I served. We're finding that everything that we do is tied with these children is tied to money. And as we try to break free of that monetary exchange, which is the currency for these children, our times, talents, and treasures are really the most important aspect of this. Everybody has time, everybody has a talent, and everybody has something that they treasure that they could help. We have a group called Affidavit Mamas that you can be a part of. Learning how to write your story. Everybody has experienced something that has been wrong, they've been wronged with. And even down to these COVID shots, from anything that is a crime against humanity, an affidavit, a sworn affidavit, is very, very important to the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Not emotional. You need to put down your story. If I personally have had CPS at my house twice. I have a lot of children, and I've experienced, just through allergies and having to manage my child's food, the school got involved and sent CPS to my house, wondering if I was starving my child. Pretty extreme case, that it wasn't a sex abuse case, but they still will, get involved in what you're doing. So you have to be educated. Educate yourself on your rights. Number one. Start going to political events. Go to your board of supervisors. See what's going on in your local community. Talk to these people. Go to political events where you can get to know them. Ask them questions. Ask for meetings. Write your own stories. And with Affidavit Mamas has a website, and I think it's just affidavitmamas.com. I'd have to look that up, and we could probably put that later. The meetings with the sheriffs. Ask your sheriffs what you can do if you're going to go out to the streets and learn how to get to know people. I went to the same places all the time. I got to know them by name. They're humans just like us. They're our brothers and sisters. And when they gain your trust, they tell you things and they share things, and you can help them. What do they need? We ask a lot of questions. What do you need? Driver's license? Do you need, jobs? How can we come alongside you? There are many people on the streets that are just poor. They don't have a drug problem. That's not typical, but there are those people that they just need help. Like one guy, he had enough money to pay the rent, but he didn't have the credit score. How are we helping people that have resources, but they don't necessarily have the ability to, have the credit check? You can come alongside people in many ways. I would take my phone, and I actually helped a Native American girl, find her family. I just sat on the phone with her and looked through Facebook. I found her aunt. I found her cousin. I made a phone call and said, I'm sitting here with your niece right now, and she's on the streets of Phoenix. And I was able to put them in connection, told the family where she was staying, and they were able to come and reunify with her and get her some help. There's just many, many ways we can get involved with people by just striking up a conversation.
Leah, hold on a minute. I hear you saying you were able to do this, you were able to do that. Who came and gave you these programs with a bow on it that was all written out and all rehearsed and all prepared and brought it to you on your sofa at home in your comfy zone? Who brought all these solutions to you?
No, I just did it by myself. Well, and the other thing is I created a Telegram channel, and I had people start listening, and I was exposing what was going on, and I used Amazon. I didn't ever take money. I used Amazon and created a account that had sleeping bags and toiletries and socks and underwear, and people would listen to my podcast, and then they would ship me the items so that there was no money exchange. And then I had a team of friends. We would just, in my garage, we would pack toiletry bags and put socks and t-shirts and underwear, take it to the streets with a meal, and just love these people and ask them questions. Take dog food, cat food. They are the protectors of animals. While they can't save themselves, they will rescue an animal. And we met them where they were at. with every aspect of their life, with no shame. Just loving them where they are and getting them, just building the trust so that they would share and be willing to help us, help them. And it was
So,
beautiful.
yeah, it is beautiful and it's remarkable to me. I'm hearing you express you took action, you did this, you chose to do that, you gave the good thing, you found that you were able to do the work. Where do you draw that personal security and inspiration from? Where do you draw that strength to decide that you matter and that you can give and that you can love?
I just see everybody deserves, everybody deserves to have that love. Once you go one time, there was a young man named Oscar and he needed shoes, and I was able to give him a pair of shoes, and just experiencing him, I hugged him, and he just was a young man, maybe about 20, and I have sons and daughters, and I was able to give him a hug and a pair of shoes, and he cried and he said, "Why are you doing this? What motivates you to come out here?" And I said, "Because I have children and I just want to love you." And he cried like he hadn't been hugged in a long time. Just a normal human thing that we're so used to. They're dirty, they're smelly, they've peed on themselves, they've thrown up, but you know what? I can take a shower. I can wash my clothes. So for me to go and experience giving love to somebody who was unlovable changed my life forever, for sure. And just gave me the will to go back out.
Well, folks, just imagine the kind of world we would live in if more people did what Leah chooses to do. If we all just gave a little something, if we all just decided to love, all just decided to help in whatever way we could that day or that moment, how much would that add up to be? We all see a bunch of takers ruining everything, a bunch of abusers, lust and greed, ruining everything. What if more of us followed Leah's lead and took inspiration from her work and from her heart and the love that she gives and emulated that and gave a little bit more? What would that total to be? It's inspiring for me to contemplate. And I think I would submit that the world would be a whole lot better place, whole lot better place.
The people that took me, I just was asked one time, "Do you want to go feed the homeless?" And I said, "Yes." And I watched a group of 20 or 30 people be that example for me as well. And, I don't take all the credit. Somebody inspired me, and I just jumped in and wanted to do the same thing. So.
Well, Leah, what an incredible story. We appreciate you joining us on Defending Our Children. That's it, folks. We will see you next week on Defending Our Children.
We hope you've enjoyed listening to Defending Our Children, the show that empowers the people with the information you need to know. Learn more on how to get involved and make a difference at vetsforchildrescue.org, because the children are worthy.